when you do like real work and you have like a job and a boss and like a chain of command and everything, like we're really like privileged and blessed. Like that's why like when Hassan said this dumb shit about like, bro, being a streamer is so hard. Like I was like, bro, in comparison to what, dude? Like shut up. Like you come from a rich background, you're a champagne socialist. Like shut up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. You've probably never done a real job in your life. So it's like, you know, a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, like I understand the sort of stress or like but it's like, dude, I'd rather take this than anything.
Than like a real job, right? Like, you know, where you're like working for a boss and being told what to do. At least here you have like the autonomy to like kind of go at your pace and do things. Of course, it's still on you. It's a lot of responsibility. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, but if you make it and you're like building like, especially like what, you know, some of us do really well financially, it's like, it's a blessing, bro. So like you can't like, again, when you see dead kids on the southwest border in Laredo, Texas, like I did, right, getting eaten by coyotes and like that because they're out there in the brush for days.
Eaten by coyotes?
Yeah, dude. Like the dead bodies are there for a while. Because what ends up happening, right? I don't want to go into a whole explanation of how human smuggling works in the United States, but like when they smuggle these illegal aliens in, they're just looking at them as like dollar bills, etc. So if they can't keep going on with like, 'cause a lot of them are dehydrated, tired, haven't eaten in days, etc. They've been traveling for weeks or months on end, right, in their journey. Like if they can't travel, they'll just leave them out there in the brush. And then like Border Patrol will come across it, they'll find the dead bodies, and then they'll find the tracking, and then they'll find the group, and then they'll arrest the group. And then what'll happen is like a lot of times if the coyote left those people to die, I'll go after them and charge them with like murder. Like illegal smuggling with the murder enhancement because they left them there to die.
Oh, that's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So like if you, because there's been plenty of situations like this where like a popular place to smuggle aliens also is like when on the tractor trailers, you put them in the windjammer on top. Like you can hide 2 or 3 of them, but a lot of them suffocate in there. Or if they put them in the back of trucks, there was a big case like this in San Antonio that I was actually involved in a couple years ago. There was like 80 of them in the back of a truck. He left them over there in August, and like 50 of them died.
Yeah, hot.
50 of them died, like, and because he left them in like in a Walmart in San Antonio, and like he didn't give them water, nothing, left them there because he didn't want to get caught, and they died. So like that's an enhancement, right? Or they're running away from like the police, and they got small.
But how do you prove that like those are their people that they're smuggling?
So what ends up happening is like, so when Border Patrol catches a group, right? The first thing they do is they call Homeland Security investigations. They call us, we show up, and they're like, hey, we suspect the smuggler is this guy. Typically as the driver of the car or someone that like that, or the leader of the group. And then the people that are in the group will identify, yeah, this is people call them coyotes, but we call them the principal. This person was the smuggler. And then that's the person, like if someone
and that person
dies.
Getting paid to do that, right?
Yes. So it's anyone that comes, 90+% of illegal aliens that come into the United States come in through a sophisticated human smuggling organization. And the reason why is because you can't come to the United States and get across the Mexican border unless you pay something called a quota, which is when you pay the quota, you got to pay, typically back when I was on the job, it was like $2,000 to $3,000 to cross the Rio Grande River, right? If it's Laredo, but in other places to cross the border, you have to pay the cartel that's in charge, right? The smuggling organization got to pay the cartel that's in charge because they run the area. So the cartels don't necessarily run human smuggling, but there's human smuggling organizations that operate in their territory that they have to pay the tax to run their human smuggling business. Drug traffickers too. So what ends up happening is when they get smuggled in, it's an organization. There's someone in Mexico that facilitates their smuggling. Once they get into the United States, there's someone on that side picking them up. And then there's a stash house operator.
Insane,
it's a whole, I could go into a whole spiel. Detail. Do you want me to go?
No, it's super interesting to me.
Yeah, human
I don't
smuggling,
know about it.
like there's like a whole like thing on it. There's a Mexican side that's involved in it. There's a national side that's involved in it. There's an American cell that's involved in it that facilitates their smuggling into the country and getting them to their destination city.
How long did you work this job?
I was on from 2013 to 2020, and I specialized in human smuggling, drug trafficking, firearms.
How did you get to that job?
So I was an intern at Northeastern University from 2010 to 2013. And then I did a good job. So I just pretty much was, they converted me from an intern to a special agent. I went to the academy. I was there for almost 7 months. It's in Glencoe, Georgia, FLETC, it's called, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I was there. And then I went to my first duty station in Laredo, Texas. And I got there in August of 2014. I left in 2018, 4 years later.
Does that require like much schooling or is it just?
They always send new agents to the border because it's so busy there, dude. They're smuggling drugs and illegal aliens and moving weapons. So drugs and illegal aliens come north, weapons and money goes south. So we're busting, millions of dollars going into Mexico, guns going into Mexico, because guns are illegal in Mexico, but they're legal in Texas and they're easy to procure. So what a lot of people do is they're straw purchasers. I worked very closely with ATF, FBI, and all this. And, they buy the guns in bulk and they smuggle them into Mexico. And then those guns are given to the cartels to fight the Mexican Marines. At the time when I was there, the Los Zetas ran Nuevo Laredo, which is across the border from Laredo, Texas, and Tamaulipas, the state of Mexico. And dude, there was a war going on. Like I remember vividly because where I used to live, you go Google this. Google Carmel Apartments in Laredo, Texas. If you look at it, it's right on the Rio Grande River. I could step out from my apartment, dude. I'd hear gunfire all the time, and that was over in Mexico because the Mexican Marines were fighting the Zetas. Because the Zetas are the most militarized. They're called Cartel Noreste now. I think they took over, but they're the most militarized Mexican cartel, one of the most violent, over El Chapo's gang over there. So they were getting in wars like every day. You'd hear the gunshots, and the military had to come in. The police were corrupt. They can't do. So Mexican Marines versus the cartel. Every day, dude, I hear gunshots.
And
Like
then he starts streaming,
guns.
and then you hear like other streamers like, I don't want to stream. I'm addicted to drugs.
This is like
Someone left a mean comment on my YouTube video. I can't stream.
And that's why, like, to me, like, this is the world that I was in for so long. So, like, I come into the entertainment world, right? I'm used to busting houses, and you go in there, and there's loads of coke and money everywhere, illegal aliens, guns everywhere, right? We're going after, like, really bad people. And you trust the person that's next to you, and then I come into the entertainment industry, and people are coming to my house doing a collab with me, then making me after.
Yeah, makes
so
sense.
to me, I was like, it was like, what the fuck is this? It was like a foreign world, but yeah, dude. And then I also did child exploitation too, but like I didn't really investigate the cases. I was more involved in like busting them because I didn't like. You have to look at child porn if you're going to be a child porn agent. You have to look at it.
Did you ever see it?
I've seen images. It's terrible.
Yeah,
because you have to confirm and so, like that. You got to put in a database called NECMIC, which national. It's a database that like looks for missing and exploited children. And what ends up happening is if you get like CP, we call it CP, you put it into this database and it like will tell you if it's like a missing child or it confirms if it's actual child porn, and then that's how you.
I did a pod with Dr. Phil, and he was mentioning something about what happens at the border.
Yeah,
and he was saying something how, and I don't know if you know this to be true or not. He was saying how like kids will get smuggled in to the States with like barcodes on them to places that they're supposed to go.
Yeah,
and Border Patrol agents like can't do anything about it. They just let it happen.
No. So what ends up happening is this. So like it depends, right? So immigration is like one of these like things that is heavily enforced or not enforced depending on who's in office. Anytime there's a Democrat in office, I've seen this like it's kind of like cyclical. We had a border crisis when Obama was in. We have it right now with Biden. Whenever there's a Democrat in, typically immigration is not as heavily enforced between Border Patrol and ICE, right? So think of Border Patrol as like they're the front lines. They're dealing with the immigration problem at the border. And then you got Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, deportation officers. They're dealing with the aliens that are already in. They prioritize criminal aliens, not necessarily people that are just here illegally, right? That's why one of those guys we caught, remember yesterday?
Yep.
He said, I crossed in 2006, but he didn't have an alien. I asked him, what's your alien registration number? He didn't have one. The reason why is because he's never dealt with law enforcement. Well, immigration. And that happens a lot of the times when, if they've never committed a crime or whatever, until we caught them, they won't deal with immigration. And that's where ICE comes in and deals with them because Border Patrol only has authority 30 miles from the functional border.
Is that like that in every state or just California?
What do you mean? As far as like ICE being enforced?
Right.
Well, ICE is federal. So, but when there's a Democrat in, they're a lot more lax in like going after illegal aliens. They prioritize criminal aliens. And even that, when there's a Democrat in, they're even reluctant to do that.
So if he was in a different state and he never had papers since 2006, would it be the same scenario?
There's a higher likelihood. Like if he was like in Texas and he was like living closer to the border, there'd be a higher likelihood he would face like some consequences. But that's why a lot of illegal aliens, when they come into the United States, they go to sanctuary cities, San Francisco, LA, New York. Like even Austin, Texas is like really liberal about that, despite being in a red state like Texas. But to answer your question with the barcodes, so when Border Patrol catches them at the border, bro, 9 out of 10 times they give them something called an ER, an expedited removal. Just send them back, right? Unless like they have asylum or some like credible fear. But most of the time they're just sent back, ER. But if they're not caught, right, and they make it into the United States, what ends up happening is you'll have the coyote walks them across, right, and they get them in the brush or whatever it may be. Then their driver comes and picks them up off like a highway. Once they get picked up at the highway, they get taken to a stash house. That's the first staging location. Once they're at that stage house, they typically have to pay more to get moved north, right? They got to pay another $1,000, whatever it may be, right? To that smuggler that has that leg of the situation. Because it's compartmentalized where there's different legs of the trip. So that smuggler, he doesn't want to keep the aliens there. So they don't charge as much. Hey, I just need this guy out here. Because when you're on the border, you have, Border Patrol has more authority because it's considered the functional equivalent of the border. So, they're searching houses and they're on the border. So they got to get those aliens out of there. So like what they're trying to do is get them north as quickly as possible. They want to get them to San Antonio. Like when I was in Laredo, the first destination is almost always San Antonio because Interstate Highway 35 is right there. Take them there. And then from San Antonio, you got Interstate 10, which takes you from Jacksonville on the East Coast all the way to LA on the West Coast, right? And it goes through a bunch of major cities on the way. So they get them to San Antonio, they're pretty much safe because there's no border patrol up there in San Antonio because it's not the functional equivalent to the border where they have authority. And local police are way more reluctant to enforce any type of immigration crime. Way more reluctant. Like LAPD, they won't even ask your alienage. NYPD, these sanctuary cities, these police won't even ask alienage because they want to stay away from it. It's politically bad. Mayors will even say, don't ask these questions because it's a federal thing. So once they get to San Antonio,
they want federal agents to ask and not local.
Well, two reasons. Number one, a lot of these blue mayors, they don't want to touch immigration, number one. They want to say we're a sanctuary city. And then number two, the police don't even have the authority to really enforce. It's called Title 8, which is immigration. They don't have the authority to do it. So, but they don't even want them calling immigration a lot of times. They'll just say, hey, if they didn't commit a crime, that's a state crime, like get them out of here.
How is it different?
Like let them go.
Let them go. Dude, I've had it before where we've had detainers, which when let's say you got a criminal alien, right? They're in jail, right? And immigration will put a detainer on them because we want to go and pick them up, right? Or ICE wants to go pick them up. The police will let them go. We don't got to abide by this detainer, even though it's federal. We don't care.
Was it different under Trump?
Under Trump, he was super pro law enforcement. They were getting rid of people. Yeah, we're sending everybody back.